Now to talk about toxic masculinity. I hate the term, partly because I hear the emphasis on toxic masculinity rather than both toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. And there is both. There's fallen man and fallen woman, but I hear the radical left talking about toxic masculinity while the conservatives saying, well, there's toxic femininity too. But to start out with, let's see what the left defines as toxic masculinity. We'll go to tolerance.org, where they use the Good Men Project's definition, which is toxic masculinity is a narrow and repressive description of manhood, designating manhood as defined by violence, sex, status, and aggression. It's the cultural ideal of manliness where strength is everything while emotions are a weakness. Where sex and brutality are yardsticks by which men are measured, while supposedly feminine traits, which can range from emotional vulnerability to simply not being hypersexual, are the means by which your status as man can be taken away. Let's see, there it is. For those of you who care to look at it, you can pause it if you need. Pause this video if you need to. Oh, there you go. Okay, now moving on. They go on to say, discussing toxic masculinity is not saying men are bad or evil, and the term is not an assertion that men are naturally violent. There it is for you up top. Okay. So maybe there are those who talk about toxic masculinity that mean well. However, you've heard me talk about that. When I say left-wing conspirators, I also mean those who teach males to be ashamed if they're males. I wonder if toxic masculinity can do that. And in this video here, you'll see in the title where they not only say that they point out toxic masculinity being bad for boys, they misconstrue it. Watch this. I will fast forward to right here.
I seem as if we're being gay towards each other or saying gay terms.
That reveals the culture, because the fact they're equating friendship with gayness is a part of American culture of men.
Okay. Nowhere I have ever lived, Seattle, Rexburg, Salt Lake, or St. George, did men equivalate friendship with gayness. We didn't even equivalate love with gayness. And what we did equivalate with gayness was, in Salt Lake at least, was saying it. Was saying we loved each other. So we tack on no homo just to clarify. But that she's going so far as to say that we equivalate friendship with gayness, it's either, she's either clueless because it's an exception somewhere and not the rule, or she's a flat-out liar. And I suspect the latter, because later on in the video, if you want to watch it yourself, she'll say that she has studied emotional development for 30 years. She would have to know better. And I will call her a left-wing conspirator. Let's see, her name is...
Masculinity. Somehow,
actually, before we get there,
a boy, to grow into a man, you have to be emotionless.
Okay, I did wonder that, because I didn't know it was possible to be emotionally strong and still have emotion. But how are these boys supposed to know it if they don't have good examples of men to tell them that? And there are no fathers even mentioned in this video, if you want to watch it for yourself. So if you don't have good examples of men, how are we supposed to know what to be? Which reminds me, to those of you who harp on toxic masculinity, what do you plan on replacing it with? What version of masculinity do you plan on replacing it with that's actually masculine? Because if these boys don't have good men to show them what manhood is, then the problems, while toxic masculinity may not get worse, other problems arising from them not knowing what a man is could arise. Let's see. Her name is... what is her name? Come on.
There's a growing but silent epidemic affecting...
Niobe Way is her name. and I would completely ignore her, and if you have the chance to call her out, I'd do so or shun her like the plague.
Middle adolescent.
But to conclude my video, excuse me, here's a question. Instead of placing emphasis on toxic masculinity, why not place emphasis on chivalry? Because men would treat women better, we'd be stronger for controlling our sex drives and our aggression. It's a win-win. Except for those who are offended because they think that by holding a door open for a woman, we are saying she's incompetent. We're not saying she's incompetent. We're doing it to be nice. There's a few little courtesies we do, not because women are incapable, but simply we just do it to be nice, and that's it.